Why the hell didn't you come to me for help?
I didn't need your help.
You're sick. You know that, don't you? And what the fuck you call 125 murders in 5 years, huh?
Work in progress.
He was responsible for the 125 mysterious gang-like murders, often attributed to a shadowy figure known as the Punisher, which have occurred in this city over the last half-decade.
Lieutenant, are you sticking to your theory that the late Frank Castle and the Punisher are the same person?
Now, I've arranged for 600 kilos of pure junk to come in.
Pier 30.
Yakuza, Japanese mafia. The first female ever to head the Yakuza.
I'm making demands.
We go to war.
I believe that Frank Castle's the Punisher.
They'll kill each other.
What you're saying is there's nothing that can save our kids.
They're being held for ransom by the Japanese.
Every day the children of God is going to cost you money.
What the hell is this? Trouble.
I'm here to take you home. I punish the guilty.
Shoot him! Happy hunting!
You Americans have a great capacity for violence.
When this is over, you're dead.
The Punisher debuted in the February 1974 issue of Marvel Comics' The Amazing Spider-Man, number 129. Frank Castle was a highly decorated Vietnam veteran. His wife and children are killed in Central Park by the mob. There doesn't appear to be any justice for his family. With his formidable fighting skills, an arsenal of weapons, and a brutal zero-tolerance policy, Castle begins a one-man war against crime and stacks up body counts by punishing the guilty. He would become known as the Punisher. He would start as a supporting character, but his popularity grew, and soon he would headline his own title. His vigilante philosophy sort of fit in with famed anti-heroes of the day. It would have been great had they made a Punisher flick with Bronson back in the 70s. I would have killed to have seen that. My name is Frank Castle, but they call me the Punisher. Marvel Comics was in a much different place in the late 80s, early 90s than it is today. Today, with superheroes being all the rage and Marvel's cinematic universe being the most popular and profitable thing around, it's just unreal to think about that the idea was actually ever even considered to sell off the rights to some of its characters. At the time, though, I guess it seemed like a good idea and was a quick way for Marvel to get some much-needed cash. The repercussions of these deals that were made are still reverberating into issues and dilemmas to this day in regards to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm sure Marvel regrets they ever went down this road and didn't hold on to all their properties much tighter during those lean years. It probably would have saved them and fans a lot of future headaches. Anyway, The Punisher was one of those Marvel properties that was licensed out, and he was going to star in his first motion picture by New World Pictures. Stan Lee did give his blessing to the production, but rescinded it after seeing the finished film. By the way, don't go looking for any Stan Lee cameos in this. It seemed like a perfect time for Marvel to start getting in on the movie action, now that Batman confirmed to everyone what a big profitable deal it could be putting a beloved superhero into movie theaters. The ironic thing was that most of the movies featuring Marvel characters from this time never even made it to theater screens in the US, and none came close to touching the popularity that Tim Burton's Batman enjoyed. You had to wait for them to hit VHS, or find them on cable, or even try to get a hold of bootlegs to finally watch them. The Punisher did get a worldwide theatrical release, but not in the US. Fans here had to wait about a year and a half when it was finally released to video. The Punisher had a low budget, $11 million. It was a big bust, and got lumped in with the other Marvel misfires during this period. But I never really thought it was that bad. It's much less a superhero movie in the comic come to life, as it is a bone-crunching 80s actioner. One I always thought was pretty decent. The character fits in quite well in that 80s violent action era, where movies dialed up the over-the-top violence, blood spurts, rounds of bullets, and explosions filled theaters. The landscape was filled with muscle-bound heroes with big guns taking no prisoners and laying waste to hundreds of bad guys. The Punisher seems quite comfortable in this era. In that respect, this Punisher, I think, works pretty well. It delivers what action fans would want to see. I think this Punisher is just as decent, and even better than the other movies that would come later. I'm not really bothered if he doesn't wear his skull logo. I know that's the biggest, most popular pet peeve many fans have. I always hear them talk about that. I'm not sure when they criticize the lack of the skull logo if they're saying had he had the skull, that would have made them like the movie more. Fans are really bothered by the absence of that skull. Putting it on his knife handles isn't enough, I guess. Fans hoping to see their favorite comic character come to life might have been disappointed. The film veers away from the comic's history. Here, Frank Castle is a good cop who is hassling the mafia. The mob don't like trouble, so they plan on killing Castle. But it's his family that are the victims of a car bomb intended for him. Castle is presumed dead, but he survives the attack and decides to disappear, and all these Punisher killings start happening. The movie skips over much of this, and we learn it all in flashback, much the same way Batman handled things. When the film starts, we're already well into Castle's bloody reign of killing. There was a deleted 15-minute opening of the movie that sets all this up. We meet Castle and his cop partner, Louis Gossett Jr. They go on a failed bust. Gangster Dino Moretti gets away. We see Castle with his family, all sweet, wholesome scenes. The whole car bomb sequence, and then Castle is presumed dead. It's worth to watch this just for the curiosity's sake. But I think it was smart to have dropped it all. It's better that we just jump into the meat of the story 5 years later and see the Punisher kill the arrogant Moretti and his goons in an exciting start to the movie. So Castle has been busy for the last 5 years, racking up 125 criminals he's killed. The police have been unable to catch him. His old partner Gossett is obsessed with catching this Punisher, and is the only one who believes Castle is alive and he and the Punisher are one and the same. Meanwhile, Castle's killing rampage has weakened the city's mob families. Ex-mob boss Gianni Franco, played by Jeroen Krabbe, comes out of retirement to try and reinforce his family's power by teaming up with the other mob families of the city and killing this Punisher.
First we consolidate, and then we obliterate.
But the appearance of the Yakuza, a very deadly Asian crime family, has another deal for Krabbe. They want to seize control of all the family businesses. This is not acceptable, but when the Yakuza kidnap all the mobsters' kids, it looks like they'll just have to swallow this deal. Cue Castle, who at first likes the idea of this mob war and letting them all kill each other. Yet he has a soft spot for the innocent kiddies. He sets out to free the kids, gets captured, and escapes the Yakuza. He then gets caught by the cops, then is rescued by Franco. Castle gets traded through a lot of hands in this. Franco forces Castle to help him get his son back, who is still in the hands of the Yakuza. Castle agrees. A big bloody action climax commences with guns, knives, swords, explosions. The boy is saved, Franco is killed, and the Punisher vanishes back into the shadows, ready to serve his brand of justice when it's needed again. Let's talk about Dolph Lundgren. He plays Castle, and I think he does fine. Most of his performance consists of looking menacing in his dyed black hair, speaking in a gravelly, monotone voice,
Turn the lights off when you leave.
and engaging in the action, which he pulls off quite well. They don't spend much time developing the character's demons or the torture he's going through. Him sitting naked, another notorious bit in this flick, and looking solemnly at his family photo is about the extent of it. But when the action kicks in, Dolph looks cool and capable. He does sport this 5 o'clock shadow makeup, which looks pretty odd. I read it was meant to give him a look of a skull, the way it's applied. I don't know, I don't really see it. It looks like some odd makeup rather than actual whiskers on the guy. Louis Gossett Jr., he's okay.
This is no fucking joke here. They are going to electrocute you. And there's nothing I can do anything about. But you gotta talk to me, man. Let me in! Let me in!
I have to give him credit. He doesn't seem like he was phoning this in, and when he shows up in his scenes, he injects a bit of enthusiasm and tries to liven things up. Some of his cop stuff is funny to watch now just because it's so seeped in the 1980s. His leather jacket, his tough talking, getting lectured by his superiors, this was all prerequisites from the era of cop movies. I always thought him grabbing a slice of pizza after knocking out the bad guy was a silly highlight by him. It's a nice improvised move by Gossett. He's given a partner, Nancy Everhard, who is mainly there to give Gossett someone to talk to and back him up. She's kind of a bland, honest, wants to do good character. She doesn't really offer much color in this. One odd bit of casting in this that always kind of confused me was Krabbe. He was playing a lot of bad guys around this time. And here, he does what you expect. He has a great voice, gives dramatic monologues, but I never understood, is he supposed to be Italian?
Have you come back to take over, sir? Come on, fellas. It was a long flight. The man's tired. Let's give him a break, huh?
Aren't you afraid of the Punisher?
The Punisher? Yeah. You know what I think in Europe? You guys made it up to sell newspapers. There is no Punisher.
He plays Gianni Franco. All the guys around him are supposed to be Italian mobsters, so, what's he doing here? A Dutch actor playing the head of the Italian mafia? I just never got it. I think they could have cast someone a bit more appropriate for the part. Or maybe it's not supposed to be an Italian mafia. I don't know. I was always a bit baffled by him in this, and his casting just sticks out to me.
Salute.
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 Another memorable baddie in this, for different reasons, is Kim Miyori.
We don't work for nobody. Who the fuck do you think you are?
We are Yakuza. When your ancestors were still shepherds screwing sheep on the Mediterranean coast, us were the crime lords of Asia.
She is so cold and ruthless in this. She's attractive in her sleek outfits. She looks a very unflappable, confident villainess. She's great in all her scenes. They could have made her the sole baddie in this, and she could have handled it just fine.
Accept the chaser.
Castle has his informant who keeps him up to date while he's streaking around in the sewers. A drunk ex-stage actor who speaks in rhymes sometimes.
My God, Nando, to see! This is a result of your 5-year killing spree. You've weakened the fathers to such degrees they couldn't protect their own families.
I'm not sure how they decided on that, but he goes through the movie sounding like underdog in spots. Maybe they thought it would be a goofy quirk to give the guy. The action scenes work pretty darn well, especially for the low budget this movie had. It doesn't hold back on the violence. We get shootouts at a pier, Castle is attacked in a carnival, there's a bus chase, the cool climax of laying waste to a building full of ninjas and swordsmen. There's just a lot of cheesy fun going on. Admittedly, it's not a very deep movie. It seems more like they wanted to use the Punisher more as a generic action hero to star in a standard action flick than making a movie based on the comics character. It's more of a nondescript vigilante character focused on a revenge movie than being an adaptation of the comic character. But I gotta admit, I still find it a lot of fun. It's got some nice hardware, the villains are effective, Dolph dispatches plenty of generic bad guys in some cool ways. Plus he fights a bunch of ninjas. That's always a bonus. I would have been all in had they announced a sequel to this. For years, Dolph's Punisher, I think, got an unfair rap. The movie was pegged as one of those bastard Marvel children, a movie that the company and a lot of fans want to pretend didn't take place. But I don't see what the embarrassment is all about. The movie delivers on being a fun 80s action flick. Compared to some of the other action movies that we were seeing around this time, I think it works just fine.
It is so 80s, though. Odds are we're unlikely to see another Marvel movie climax with the bad guy wearing a stone-washed denim jacket like this. Could it have been better? Well, sure. They could have stayed closer to the source material and crafted a better Castle character. I mean, it pales next to Netflix's adaptation.
I think that this world, it needs men that are willing to make the hard call. That's what I think. I think you and me are the same. We're the same. You know it. Only I do the one thing that you can't. You hit them and they get back up. I hit them and they stay down.
For the basics of an action movie, it still delivers the goods. For a cheaper B movie with not a lot of money behind it, I prefer this Punisher movie over the 2004 and 2008 films. And both those had his skull logo in them. That didn't make them any better.
There's a limit to revenge.
Well, I guess I haven't reached one yet.